All right, so we're diving into the threat, revealing the secret alien agenda. And this is written by David M. Jacobs. And this isn't, our usual UFO book with the grainy pictures and kind of crazy theories. Jacobs was a history professor.
Yeah, he was.
So he at least had some academic background.
He did. And decades of research. I mean, this wasn't just some passing interest for him. This was his life's work.
So was he one of these guys that went into it like wanting to prove that aliens existed, or was he coming at it from a more skeptical standpoint? How did he even get into this?
Well, in reading his early work, you really get a sense that he started out, like many researchers in the field, with a real sense of hope. I think wanting to prove the existence of extraterrestrial life that comes through very clearly. But as he really dug into it, as he moved from just sightings and sort of these anecdotal accounts to really analyzing abduction accounts, his perspective really started to shift.
Oh, okay.
It became, I think, less about this optimistic search for life beyond Earth, and more about trying to understand the potential threat that these beings might pose.
So it sounds like a lot of it revolved around the abduction phenomenon, which we've touched on in other deep dives. But Jacobs really seemed to focus on this as maybe the key to understanding what was behind all this.
He did. He really believed that instead of just chasing lights in the sky, that these abduction accounts, as bizarre and as difficult as they were to analyze and interpret, he really believed that they held the key to understanding what might be motivating these unexplained events.
Okay.
And it's through these accounts, he started to see these patterns emerge, these details that really pointed to something far more complex, far more organized, and frankly, far more frightening than I think even he could have imagined when he first started out.
So was he using hypnosis was a big part of his research, right? To try to get to the bottom of these abduction accounts?
Yeah, and he was upfront about the challenges of using hypnosis, the skepticism surrounding it, the potential for false memories. But he really believed that the potential insights gained from these abduction narratives, he really felt they were just too significant to ignore. They provided this glimpse, he argued, into the heart of the UFO phenomenon.
It's interesting, too, because you mentioned that his perspective shifted, but it sounds like this wasn't just an academic pursuit for him. This sounds like it really took a toll on his life, on his relationships.
It really did. He faced ridicule from his colleagues. He talks about how, his family was afraid to even talk about his work, for fear of social stigma. This wasn't just him going into an office and doing research. This consumed his life in ways that I don't think he could have ever anticipated.
So let's back up a little bit, because I know he was really into UFO sightings early on, which, that was kind of the thing, right? If you were into UFOs back in the 60s, 70s, it was all about the sighting.
It was the strange objects in the sky, disappearing, reappearing, sometimes seemingly toying with the witnesses. I mean, you have these countless reports, each more bizarre than the last, but they rarely offered, this clear understanding of what might be behind these strange aerial displays.
Right. It's like you see a few pieces of the puzzle, but you don't have the whole picture.
Exactly. And that's precisely why Jacobs shifted his focus to the abductions. He saw these accounts, as challenging as they were to interpret, he saw them as a way to look inside the phenomena. Not just the what, but the why.
The purpose, yeah.
Yeah, the motives driving these mysterious events.
Okay.
He was convinced that somewhere within these narratives, these abduction narratives, buried beneath the fear, the confusion, were clues to understanding the true nature of the UFO phenomenon. And, as he went deeper into these abduction accounts, a really unsettling pattern started to emerge. One that suggested a potential large-scale alien breeding program.
Oh, wow. Okay. That took a turn. That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, not necessarily something you'd expect from a history professor.
Right. But he lays out a really, really meticulously researched argument. And he draws on, hundreds of these abduction narratives.
Yeah.
And what he found was that these narratives, they contain these chillingly consistent details, descriptions of medical examinations, a real focus on reproductive systems.
Oh.
The extraction of eggs and sperm.
Wow.
even the implantation and later extraction of fetuses.
Okay, so we're talking about some really invasive procedures here. Did he give specific examples of the impact that these procedures had on the abductees?
Yeah, and that's what makes it so real and so disturbing. One woman, for example, described experiencing over 100 abductions in a single year. Over 100. Imagine the emotional toll that would take. The feeling of isolation, of just being completely overwhelmed. Other women described in detail these experiences of extrauterine fetal implantation, which Jacobs uses to explain why some abductees report experiencing this unexplained bloating, this internal pressure.
It's a disturbing thought, and if these accounts are to be believed, I mean, it suggests a real intent, a real purpose behind this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This wasn't about casual observation. This wasn't even, simple biological sampling. This was something far more systematic, far more deliberate. It was almost as if the goal was to create something new.
And this is where the idea of the alien-human hybrids comes in.
Exactly. Jacobs argued that the evidence really strongly suggested that these beings weren't just fascinated by human biology. They were actively attempting to create these hybrid beings with varying degrees of human DNA.
So it's like a spectrum then. It's not just one type of hybrid.
That's right. That's right. And what's really interesting is that these hybrids weren't just relegated to some lab somewhere.
Right.
The abductees describe interacting with these beings at all ages. We're talking about infants, toddlers, children, adolescents, even fully grown adults. It was as if the abductees were being given this glimpse into the entirety of the hybrid lifespan.
So it's not just about creating life. It's about raising it, training it. I mean, that adds a whole nother layer to this. Did Jacobs talk about why they would go to such lengths to keep this a secret?
And this is where it gets really, really strange, right? He introduces this concept of what he calls mind scan, which is this alleged ability of the aliens to access and to manipulate the memories and emotions of the abductees.
So they can get inside your head, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And not just read your thoughts, but change them, erase them, implant new ones. It's a chilling thought, right? I mean, to think that our minds could be infiltrated and altered without our consent.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be, taken, right, abducted. It's another thing to have your memories messed with.
And that violation of your mind, of your sense of reality, I mean, that's a whole different level of terrifying.
Did he give any examples of how this mind scan might work?
Well, he explored a variety of possibilities, ranging from advanced technology to what might even be considered, psychic ability.
Oh, wow.
But he was also very careful to say, look, we don't know for sure. We don't have concrete evidence for the specific mechanism.
So the how is still a mystery.
Exactly. But regardless of how they do it, the implications are pretty disturbing.
Yeah. So we're talking about like implanted memories, suppressed memories, or something else entirely.
Well, and he presents a really compelling case for all of those possibilities.
Yeah.
In some cases, the abductees describe what appear to be, screen memories, seemingly harmless, benign memories that under hypnosis are revealed to be masking these far more disturbing experiences.
So your mind creates a cover story, basically.
Yeah, almost like a defense mechanism. It replaces trauma with something more palatable, something less threatening.
Did he give any like specific examples of these screen memories?
He did, yeah. One that really stuck with me. One woman described this recurring memory of being plugged into a wall.
Plugged into a wall.
Yeah. And this memory filled her with this sense of dread, this helplessness. But under hypnosis, she recalled the original memory. She was being forced to stare into the black, emotionless eyes of an alien being.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just so unsettling, so terrifying for her that her mind had seemingly replaced it with this more familiar, less terrifying image.
That's really creepy. I mean, it makes you wonder how much of what we experience is real and how much is just our minds, playing tricks on us.
That's the unsettling question that Jacobs' work raises. I mean, if this mind scan is real, if it's as pervasive as he suggests, then it really calls into question everything we think we know about the world, about ourselves.
It really makes you wonder, how much of what we think we see, what we think we remember is actually, real. And if they can manipulate our memories like that, well, it would explain why we don't have more evidence of these abductions, of these breeding programs.
Exactly. That level of control, I mean, it would certainly explain the secrecy surrounding all of this, but, as if that wasn't strange enough, Jacobs's research uncovers this whole other layer of weirdness, this hierarchy within the alien world itself.
So it's not just like one group of aliens doing all this. There's different types.
Yeah. Well, that's what the abduction accounts seem to suggest.
Mm-hmm.
You have the classic grays, of course, but Jacobs also explores these accounts of these taller, more human-looking entities, sometimes called Nordics.
Oh yeah, the Nordics. They've popped up in pop culture a bit. Usually they're portrayed as like these benevolent beings, right? Here to like guide humanity or whatever.
Right. This whole idea of them as these enlightened beings, ushering us into some new age of peace and understanding.
Right.
But Jacobs throws a real curveball here. He suggests that these Nordics, they could be the result of the very breeding program that he's uncovered.
Oh, whoa. Okay, hold on. So you're saying that these Nordics, these seemingly benevolent beings, they could actually be like advanced hybrids, so human-like that they can like blend in.
That's the implication, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just throws this whole other wrench into our understanding of what's going on here. I mean, are they creating a workforce, a new generation of infiltrators? I mean, what's the end game here?
It's a lot to wrap your head around. So these Nordics, if they are, these advanced hybrids, do they actually play a role in the abductions themselves?
It seems so. Some abductees describe encounters where the hybrids, especially the adult hybrids, they're the ones in control. They're conducting the examinations, the mind scan, even the reproductive procedures.
So they're being like trained to take over.
Yeah, almost as if they're being prepared to operate independently of the grays.
It's like what happens when they're ready? I mean, when these hybrids are fully integrated, walking among us, what then?
And that's the question, isn't it? That's the question that Jacobs leaves us with. And I don't think there's an easy answer. He forces us to confront this really unsettling possibility that the line between us and them, it may be a lot blurrier than we want to believe.
Yeah. And it's not like he comes down on one side or the other. I mean, he lays out all these different possibilities, everything from like benevolent guidance to like full-on manipulation and control.
Right. And he doesn't try to sugarcoat it. He leaves us grappling with this ambiguity, this uncertainty about our place in all of this.
So the threat isn't just the title of the book, it's the question, really.
It is. He's asking us to consider this possibility, that the answers, they might be closer than we think, that they might be hidden in plain sight.
Or even hidden within our own, manipulated memories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and maybe that's the scariest part of all.
Well, on that note, that's David M. Jacobs and The Threat, revealing the secret alien agenda. Definitely a thought-provoking read, and one that will leave you looking over your shoulder. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.